If your hearing aids are loud, but you still can't understand what people are saying, that's not normal. And it's one of the most frustrating situations I see in my clinic. I'm Dr. Shana Stapleton, and people come in telling me, I hear everything, but I can't follow conversations. And after spending thousands of dollars, they start wondering if hearing aids just don't work for them. But here's the part that most people don't realize. This is usually not a volume problem. And if you try to fix it like it is, you can actually make it worse. Because when hearing aids are loud but not clear, there are usually a few specific things causing it. And for most people, it usually comes down to one or two main issues. If you don't know which one it is, nothing you try will fully fix it. Where people get stuck. This is where many people get stuck. They try to solve all hearing problems the same way. Depending on what is actually causing the issue, that can help or it can make things worse. Here's what most people do. They turn the volume up, they switch programs, they stop wearing the hearing aids because it feels frustrating, or they start thinking they need a better device. But none of those things usually solve the real problem. That is why people can spend months or even years feeling like their hearing aids are not working when volume was never the issue in the first place. Hearing loss is often a clarity problem. Before we talk about what improves clarity, there is something many people never hear. Hearing loss is not always about sounds being quieter. Very often it is about clarity. You may hear someone talking, but parts of speech, especially consonants, no longer come through clearly. That is why people often say, everyone mumbles. I hear you, but I cannot understand you. It is worse in restaurants. Turning the volume up does not fix clarity. This is exactly where many people get stuck. Everything about the experience makes it feel like you need more volume, but in reality, that is often the last thing you need. A lack of clarity can come from completely different problems. If you're fixing the wrong one, you can go a long time without getting the result you expected. Your brain is part of hearing. This is where hearing becomes more complicated than most people expect. You're hearing more sound, but understanding less. That is when people start thinking, why is this harder now than it was before? What most people are never told is this: your ears are only part of the process. Even when hearing aids are doing their job, your brain still has to make sense of the sound. When the signal is not clear enough, your brain works harder to fill in the gaps. This becomes especially difficult in restaurants, group conversations, or when people talk quickly. That extra effort is exactly why this feels so frustrating. Two people with the same hearing test can have completely different experiences. One may cope well, another may feel exhausted and overwhelmed. That is because hearing is not only about the ears, it is also about how the brain processes sound. Why consistency matters. This is also why untreated hearing loss can affect more than communication. Over time, the parts of the brain responsible for processing sound receive less stimulation. That can make listening even harder. This is why consistency matters so much with hearing aids. I see this all the time. People wear their hearing aids for only a few hours here and there. Then they say they are loud, but they are not helping. People often make the wrong decision at that point. They assume the hearing aids are not working, but sometimes the real issue is that the brain has not had enough time to improve yet. The brain needs consistent exposure to clear sound so it can relearn how to process it. This does not happen instantly. That is where many people give up too early. Clarity improves gradually. If someone expects instant clarity, they get discouraged quickly. But if they understand that clarity improves over time with consistent use, they stay with it long enough for the brain to catch up. That is when things begin to change. Not all at once, but gradually. Conversations feel easier. Background noise feels less overwhelming. Listening no longer feels like hard work. The brain slowly starts to recognize speech patterns again, separate speech from background noise more effectively, reduce the effort it takes to listen. And that only happens when the brain gets enough input consistently. Consistency is what turns loud into clear. Without consistency, clarity never gets the chance to improve. Your hearing aids may need adjustments. There is another important possibility. Your hearing aids may simply need better adjustments. I had a patient recently describe it exactly like this. Everything sounds louder, but it still feels unclear. They were frustrated and starting to think the hearing aids were not working. But when we looked closer, the issue was not the hearing aids. It was how they were set up. After a few targeted adjustments and some consistent use, they came back and said, "It finally sounds clear. Same devices, different outcome." That is often the moment people realize the hearing aids were not the problem. The setup was the problem. Fine-tuning can make a big difference. If your hearing aids are functioning properly and do not need repair, lack of clarity often means they have not been fully optimized for you yet. That is actually good news, because it means something may be improved. There are often specific things we can adjust, such as the way sound is compressed, how much high-frequency information is delivered, the type or size of the dome, how speech and background noise are balanced. Small adjustments in these areas can create major improvements. Sometimes it is the difference between hearing sound and understanding speech. Inner ear processing issues. There's also something less commonly discussed. Some people have areas inside the inner ear, often called dead regions, where certain sound information is not processed effectively. This often affects high-pitched speech, sounds like consonants. So even if those sounds are made louder, they do not always become clearer. That is why some people say, "I can hear it, but I cannot understand it. It sounds loud, but still not clear." In these cases, louder does not always mean clearer. Realistic expectations. Many people wish they had been told this from the beginning. Hearing aids do not give you brand new ears. They provide correction, not perfection. They give your brain better access to sound. Then your brain does the rest. There's an adjustment period. Things may sound different at first. Your own voice may sound strange. That is not failure. It is adaptation. And it is often a sign that your brain is adjusting. The real goal. The goal of treating hearing loss is not perfection. The real goal is less effort, better understanding, more energy, staying connected to the people and moments that matter. Hearing health is brain health. That changes how you should think about timing, expectations, and consistency. So when your hearing aids are loud but not clear, that is not random. And it is not something you simply have to live with. It usually means one of a few specific things is happening. If you do not identify which one, it is easy to go in the wrong direction, turning the volume up, wearing them less, or assuming they do not work for you. But the real issue is usually not hearing more. It is getting the right sound in a way your brain can use. Once that part is corrected, everything starts to change. Conversations feel easier. You stop second-guessing what you heard. Listening no longer feels like work, not all at once, but gradually. That is the difference between hearing sound and understanding it. If this sounds familiar, you're not imagining it, and you're not the only one. Hearing problems are often not about volume, they're about clarity and how your brain is processing sound. And once you understand that, you stop chasing volume and start fixing clarity.